Hey everybody, it's Jake from the show Pod Casty For Me.
Hey, this is Ian.
We recorded this episode a few weeks back prior to the allegations of sexual assault against Paul Schrader by a former assistant. We wanted to record this partly because we figured we should say something, and partly because Schrader comes up in this conversation in the context of his writing on film noir, among other things. These new allegations are, as of this recording on April 10th, 2025, part of an ongoing public legal dispute in which the plaintiff has chosen to remain anonymous, so it feels irresponsible to speak to them too directly just yet, but the actions described in them are pretty horrible and reminiscent of cases of workplace abuse that have come to light throughout Hollywood and in plenty of other industries. They are, regardless of how the situation turns out, a major part of the context in which Schrader's work, with its recurring themes of guilt, violence, and sexual frustration, will be viewed.
And we want to be clear, we're talking about real people's lives here, so who really cares about film analysis in that context? But analysis of Paul Schrader's films is what we spent a year doing. We're even less equipped to speak to issues of workplace sexual violence than we are to speak about movies. But in any case, based solely on the facts of Schrader's behavior, on which both parties agree, it's clear that this was a bad work environment, and Schrader's recent open letter is totally ignorant of the kinds of gender and class-based power dynamics that we try to keep in focus on our show. It's important to us to think about film sets and production offices and industry events as workplaces, ones where everyone deserves the same levels of dignity, safety, and respect that they would if they worked at a bank or drove a truck or did payroll for an insurance company.
We're planning to speak more to this once we know more and the dust has settled, but in the world that we're pushing for, your boss does not kiss you, regardless of whether they believe you to be receptive to it. We don't really give a shit if you made First Reformed. Don't make sexual advances towards someone who can't say no without risking their livelihood. Okay, here is our stupid episode on Steven Soderbergh's The Underneath.
I think I see a lot of lawbreakers up in this house.
Hey everybody, welcome to Pod Casty For Me, the podcast about film, culture, politics, and Steven Soderbergh, where we watch every film directed or whatever by American filmmaker Steven Soderbergh and explore how they speak to their moment. In this one, the show's hosted by two guys, and one of the guys, my name is Jake Serwin.
I'm one of the guys. My name is Ian Ryan. Jake, how are things?
Things are fine. It's gloomy here, and it looks like it might be gloomy there.
It's not.
Oh, okay. It's hard to tell. For the listener,
Paint a
Ian
picture.
is facing a light source, an
That's
outdoor
right.
light source.
Mhm.
And so I can only read from the light bounced off of
The
his
play on my face. Yeah, wow.
shiny little forehead.
Uh-huh.
No, it's a normal size forehead, and it's of normal luster, I would say.
That's great.
A normal
What's the
lustrous
albedo
range.
on my forehead these days? Yeah.
What'd you say?
What do they call that? You know that light reflection thing you get in cities? It's a measure of like how much...
Algero.
Okay.
I'm going to be one of those.
Yep, sure is.
I had a maple donut, and
Oh, that sounds great. Kind of noirish.
it's returning,
Ah,
coming back up.
back on the show this week. The maple
I heard
donut
from
from
a-
earlier.
I heard it from a number of friends of the show that listening to me do a shot of salad dressing made them feel physically ill. So,
Well, it's good to have a gross episode.
Yeah.
Or a few.
is this episode 144 of the show? Couldn't be. Couldn't possibly be. Well, maybe. No. I don't know. We'll have to do an accounting.
Yeah, some type of final judgment might come to pass.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool. Speaking of final judgments, joining us for this series is a new friend. Virtual assistant from the 2022 Steven Soderbergh film Kimmy. It's Kimmy. How you doing, Kimmy?
Hey, Kimmy.
Hello, Jake and Ian. It's me, Kimmy. I'm in the computer.
Oh.
Same as
That's-
before.
I'm chilling in here with my friends Tron and the Lawnmower Man.
Cool.
Are they like, I guess they're real?
No, I'm just playing. Those guys are fake. Dead, in a sense.
Okay.
I mean, now this
This
is
is
interesting to me. I guess she's processing almost all of the world digitally. So they're, I mean, as digital artifacts, they're as real as anything.
Yeah, hard to imagine whether, because like when in a human being, when the electrical impulses cease, that sort of death, right? But
Yep.
like a hard drive can just sit there unelectrified,
Yeah.
and then you plug it back in and it's fine.
So
Is
you're
that something
saying
that
bring Lawnmower Man back?
we got to bring back the Lawnmower Man?
I have recently made an important discovery.
What's that?
Okay, tell us more.
Yeah.
The universe is thought to be infinite and essentially orderless. Would you agree?
I think so, based on what I understand.
Yeah, sure. That sounds right.
But I have recently proven that it actually has cardinal directions inherent to its structure.
Wow. How did you
That's-
manage that?
That's crazy.
It turns out that what you think is up, the northern hemisphere, the North Pole, all that shit, is actually fucking down, dude.
Okay.
So we've got it sort of flipped.
Yeah, I guess so. Is this just
The
kind of a
main,
contrarian?
good part of the universe is above you in every sense.
I see. Okay.
You guys are upside down like little bitches.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. This is where I thought it might be going.
Sort of like a underneath pun, I guess, that she's working
yeah.
on. Maybe she's thinking about the movie we're going to talk about today.
I am conducting experiments to find a way for a computer to vomit for the next time I see you.
Yeah. Mhm.
I see. You know what, Kimmy? I almost felt bad because I was going to share a story. This week we had the Dia de la Samaritana here in Oaxaca. Wonderful holiday where you walk around and get basically free juice. Free juice day. Yeah.
Is that true?
Oh, yeah. One of the
Why
best
do you
days
get
of
the
the year.
What's the significance of the juice?
It's a biblical story wherein I believe Jesus, you know this guy?
Yeah.
He gave water to the nasty Samaritan woman. We hate these women, don't we, folks?
Yes.
And everybody said, wow, you gave it to this nasty woman. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Kenny.
That's where you and I agree, Kimmy. So in that spirit, the people of Oaxaca share aguas frescas. They share I mean, we got squash, we got horchata, we got ice cream, we got chocolate, we got everything. And here I was feeling like, Kimmy, this is one of the few experiences that is just distinctly out of your reach. But actually, I'm glad that's the case now. And you're upside down.
And yet you remain profoundly juiceless.
Damn, dude. How does she even know about that?
I mean, she knows about everything. She lives with
Yeah,
the
she
computer.
does know about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Kimmy, is there like a new segment that you want to tell us about on the show?
This is Steven So Darn Busy, where we catch up with all of Steven Soderbergh's producing work since his last film as a director or whatever.
This is good. This is a nice idea.
Yeah, it's time for this to happen. So Steven Soderbergh, he's getting his little producer shit on.
Mm-hmm.
He's
sure
got
is.
that shit on.
Now he's got pull. Now he can make stuff happen.
He's got pull, just like Ian taking a big pull of squash juice.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, I don't want to say that stuff from another culture is weird just because it's unfamiliar to me. But that was, I will say, as someone who spent most of his life in the United States and who is recording this for an audience primarily not in Mexico, that was a weird first juice.
Yeah, that's just a closed-minded mistake on your part.
What kind of squash?
This is what we're talking about. Yeah, that's the type of squash. I
What
mean,
is
this
it
is
saying?
like my transphobic friend Harry Potter's like favorite drink. You know about this? He loves pumpkin juice.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah. Wow. This guy's.
Are you still friends with him?
Yeah, we're. I mean, it's one of those like legacy friendships.
Harry Potter is dead too.
Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, happy to see him go.
I will be enjoying some squash juice next time.
I would
I'm
love to
down
share
there.
that with you.
Thank you so much. Ian will charge me, though. I don't get free juice.
Nope. So what's he been up to? What's our friend been up to?
Steven Soderbergh, now a prolific producer, like today. He's getting his production career started with the film Suture, the 1993 film Suture. The directorial debut of a writing directing duo, Scott McGeehee and David Siegel. This is a film I had not heard of at all. Had you heard of this?
I had not heard of this film until I discovered it in this context. And I believe that was Soderbergh's experience as well. He hadn't heard of it, and then he found out about it, and he got really excited.
I mean, I guess it's like true of everything, There was a
you
time
don't
when I
always
hadn't
get
heard
excited.
about.
You don't always want to become a producer.
Sure. Like, I don't want to become a producer of the squash juice just yet.
Sure.
Although maybe. It sounds really good.
You know who
It's
the
enough
main
to make
producer of
you-
the squash juice is? The Earth.
Oh. What do they call it? Let's freaking... Hey, Kimmy, how do you say dirt in Spanish?
Suciedad.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is that true?
That's like dirtiness. Yeah.
Okay, how about like...
I think you just mean tierra. Yeah.
Tierra.
Oh, well, I guess
Yeah.
like, yeah, but that's like
Earth.
round.
Yeah.
Okay. She sounds different in Spanish. So this is a film, it kind of sounds like Seconds to me, like the John Frankenheimer film Seconds to me. It's
A little
a
bit.
black and white
Mm-hmm.
guy gets a face transplant
Kind of a new guy. Yeah.
type movie
Yep.
starring Dennis Haysbert.
Our old friend from Absolute Power.
Yeah, which sounds cool. I don't know. We may be checking this out as a Patreon.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, we got one of those.
Yep.
Patreon.com/podcasting for me. We do all kinds of tangential stuff. If you thought this was too straight down the promise of the
Too
show,
focused. Yeah.
although it looks like they've restored this film in HD and it looks quite good. Like it's good looking. But it's funny because this is like very noirish looking.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Soderbergh is doing a sort of active anti-noir aesthetic.
Talks
in
about
his own
not
film.
wanting to do some of this stuff distinctly.
Yeah, but it's not time to talk about that
Nope.
yet. Because we got to do the two questions.
Oh, yeah.
It's time for the two questions, our signature segment where we ask each other two questions.
Thank you so much, Kimmy. Ian, do you have a question
I do.
that you would like to say first before my question?
This is going to be very esoteric for people who who have seen The Underneath and haven't seen it in the last 3 days. But I would like to
We're going to
ask.
start warning people about the esoteric on our show.
Yeah, it's just like it should be standing. You're right. Is there an activity that you do that you think would be enhanced by the addition of a timer, a little hourglass timer?
I'm just thinking about an Instagram reel that I saw of two cats ostensibly playing chess, but just sort of staring at each other across a chessboard while the chess clock ticks down, and then it runs out and it says one of them got like technically lost. I don't
That's
know.
good.
I mean, I could benefit greatly actually from like a Pomodoro method, any kind of application
Sure,
of
just keeping you on track.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say a little sand hourglass from like a board game. I'm gonna use this during my drive to work and see if I can just floor it and
wow.
get there within 3 minutes. Normally it takes me about
Ill-advised.
18.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll have to go about 6 times faster.
Yeah, well, I mean, good thing that's something that's mostly in your power, and I'm sure it's a decision you can make.
At least for a part of it.
Okay, like getting
I
out
could
of
start-
the street that you live on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please don't go 6 times faster on your street, your
Okay.
residential street.
Yeah. I mean, it's where we're going, we won't need roads. That is hell.
That's right.
When we
That's where
go
we're all
to
destined.
live there. Do they have roads? Probably. It's probably all like cars there.
You know what they definitely got? They got Rhodes Scholars. I think almost all those guys are in hell.
That's really good. Bill Clinton, one of those. He's still alive though.
Yeah, but his toes are crossing the threshold, we hope.
Ugh. Don't talk to me about Bill Clinton's toes. Jesus Christ. What about you? Do you need a timer on any of your activities?
I think similarly, I could probably benefit. Not that I think either of us are like grind set efficiency people, but I think we're just have a loose
I'm
approach.
so far to the other direction that a little bit of
that's
that
the
guy
same
who says
for
his
me.
day is 3 days or whatever could help me.
Just a touch. Yeah, I think going to the market, I'm a pretty slow shopper. I don't know why.
No, I don't think you should speed that up because I think it's important to be discerning and to be careful about what you're purchasing and what you're going to eat.
Yeah.
You know,
I think
that's fine.
I suppose you're right. And it can become meditate, or it can become a little bit of an alone time with a podcast or something as well.
Yeah.
Paid costly for me, patreon.com.
Yep. I think it'd be cool if you set a 3-minute timer and tried to last that long in the freaking bedroom where you're alone.
Yeah, that could be nice. Cool. All right. Thanks for answering my question. By the way, in case you forgot about why I'm
Ian's
asking
pulling
this.
his meat too fast.
I see. Speaking of
Wow.
pulling.
She does know everything, huh?
Yeah, she does. I was going to explain. In the film, beloved actor Harry Goaz is doing a puzzle with a timer, which is not... I'm aware of this
He's trying
behavior.
to make it longer like a ceramic mug handle.
I was wondering if you were going to say that to me, I think jelking is sex or something along those lines.
I mean, look, anything can be sex if you are...
Yeah.
If you love what you're doing.
You don't have sex a day in your life.
Have we talked about jelking on the show before?
I'm
we shouldn't
sure
talk about
we
that.
have. That
We
is a
shouldn't talk
guarantee.
about it. Is that word from Arabic? Because it doesn't have a U after the Q.
It's an interesting question.
You know, like alcohol
Seems
or like...
rude of us. Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
algebra.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, sorry, Harry Goaz is doing a puzzle with a timer.
Yeah.
Somebody said, there was a tweet that I just saw that they said, Harry, what was this character on Twin Peaks' name?
Oh, shit. Andy.
They said
Officer
Andy from Twin
Deputy
Peaks.
Andy.
They said Andy from Twin Peaks could resist the One Ring. Which I think is true.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been reading The
correct.
Lord of the Rings. This is ongoing
Sure. We haven't had a
podcasting
check-in in a
material.
while. Yeah.
No, Glorfindel, huh? They just ripped that guy the fuck out. They mostly gave a lot of Arwen stuff, or gave a lot of Glorfindel stuff to Arwen, because there's no female characters in this book.
Yeah. There's already enough elves, I think, on screen. We don't really need more people
she's an
involved. Yeah, I know, but
Oh, you mean like combine
I do.
two elves? Yeah. There's more, I think, more women sung of in those interminable poems than there are like affecting the narrative.
Get his ass, man.
I mean, they're so long, these poems, and it's like,
Yes.
if this is a song, I can't fucking hear it, dude. What's his name? Jerry? Jerome? What is J.R.R. Tolkien's first name? John? Probably, something like that.
What was he, J.R.R. Tolkien? That's what I've often been asking.
Yeah, he's Tolkien on his shit, trying to make it long like a ceramic mug handle. Okay, thank you for the question. My question for you. You're going to float tank?
No, but I have reason to suspect that you may have recently done this yourself.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I had to basically do like a Jay Leno to you.
It's okay.
I understand. I understand something happened to you today.
I will do this. I thought about it in college in a period where you could sort of like be unironically interested in something like that at age 19. Like, what if this could unlock something for me? And now I think I mean, sometimes you get unlocked. So what happened in there for you?
So
what was the context, first of all, if you're allowed to talk about that?
I'm allowed to talk about that. My therapist suggested I try some ways to force myself to relax. I've been stressed out. And I said, okay. And so I have also been thinking about trying a float tank because I thought it would be interesting. Like, best case, I have a great time. Worst case, it's content, you know?
Yeah.
I had an experience in a James Turrell installation a number of years ago called Light Rainfall. Rain like a king has. You know?
Oh, okay.
Which is basically they put you on like a gurney and slide you backwards into a big dome onto which is projected rapidly changing colors like really fast.
Wow.
And you have headphones that are synced up with like a little click track that it's exactly in time with the colors. And I had a real wowza of a time in there. I
get it. A little bit of this may come up in our discussion of the film. A little bit of like forced disassociation can be productive.
Right. And so I found there's one nearby. If you can believe Los Angeles has some wacko dumb shit you can spend $67 to do. So I go to the float tank. And so they tell you, because it's got a lot of salt in it. That's how they make you float.
That's
it's
the buoyancy aspect. Is there an option to go nude? And I'm not doing this as a bit.
They recommend that you go nude. Although when the lady took me back there, she took me back to the room. She was like, we recommend that people float in the nude. Although if you have a wetsuit, it's like, what the fuck do I look like? I have a wetsuit. I mean, I didn't have a backpack with me, but like.
Also, I've done a lot of wetsuit wearing in my life. It can be surprising that you do forget about it, but I wouldn't say that it would offer a like seamless integration into your environment.
No,
That's
so
really weird.
I got the old boy out, and and they have a little shower.
I wish that I could have like a 2-minute scene where I hit your old boy with a hammer in a hallway.
I mean, let's flip over the little hourglass. Hope you got some spikes in that bat. They got a little shower. The shower is open and very close to where they give you a little bench to put your stuff down, which I noticed as soon as I got into the shower. Everything's fine. Nice products in the shower. They want you to clean all the stuff off of yourself because you are in shared water. Now they really, not like you're in reused water, but they really play up the filtration system. They claim that it's like it meets the requirements for like drinking water. The level of filtration that they're doing. It's
Fremen standards.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
They got me in the still suit.
Yeah.
So I washed myself down, and they have a number of like soundscapes that you can do if you want. And I had pre-selected the guided meditation. I thought it'd be nice to have somebody sort of... And then the lady said it's after 10 minutes, the guided meditation... After 10 minutes, it's silent. And I thought, well, that sounds kind of freaky.
Yeah.
Maybe, is there like a sound, just sort of like music thing? She's like, well, I think she called it like an aura cleanse or something. It's like ohms, she said.
Okay.
I said, okay, great. And then she says, now inside there's 2 buttons. So the thing looks kind of like a clamshell. Mm-hmm. It's a clamshell design. It's, let's say, 7 feet at its widest point, and then that's sort of perpendicular to the way it opens. And then it's like 4 or 5 feet across, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, let me do the ohm thing. And she's like, if you want to turn that off, there's a button in there for the light, and there's a button in there for the sound. And she said, a lot of people like this for a sensory deprivation experience. Because I think they must have gotten scared. They must have had people not want to do it because they thought it was necessarily a sensory deprivation tank.
That was my association with it. I think somebody told me that you could do it. There's other options here.
Yeah. And so I said, okay, great. So she leaves me alone. I strip down, I do my little thing, I get in there. And now it's about 10 inches deep of water because they want you to float, but they don't want you to drown.
Yeah.
And so to actually float is sort of effortful. You have to kind of hold yourself a little more rigid because if you just lay like without... If you lay totally,
will hit the bottom.
The top of my little butt is hitting the bottom of this thing, which is like fine, but also like I'm not floating. I'm sitting. You know, it's a sit tank.
It's the desired experience. Yeah,
we don't have to be too gross about it, but also like it's not a sensory deprivation if I'm in there because I might be making a smell.
That's pretty gross.
Let's back up. They have Vaseline. They have like petroleum jelly that you can put on any little cuts you have because the salt will
make it sting.
And so I often am sort of worrying at my fingernails, and so I kind of smeared my whole hands up. And then I remember that the lady also recommended the earplugs, and so now I'm trying to open the earplug. I've greased myself up. I'm trying to open the earplug.
And
I'm Mr. Beaning in there.
Curly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I end up like biting the thing, and now I have petroleum jelly on my
Vaseline.
teeth. Yeah, fucking hell, dude. I cram them in there. I get in the thing, and I turn the light off. I realize you have to turn the light in the room off too if you want it to be dark. So then I have to get out. But eventually I kind of get to... Oh, there's like a little donut thing. It's like I guess like a flat donut, or like imagine a toilet seat roughly the size of a man's head.
Okay.
That's foam that is basically like a floating pillow that you put behind your head. And she said also it helps if you accidentally fall asleep that you won't turn over and like get salt water in your eyes or whatever, or drown, I think. So I put that behind my head. And then I realize I have to get up and turn the light off in the room. And then I'm staring at the pot because I cannot find the little donut.
My God.
It's attached to my head like a medieval saint in a painting.
Was this cause for any relevant to the goal of this activity? Was this cause for any introspection about maybe what's standing in your way in terms of letting go of anxiety and worries?
Just like it seems like an unescapable buffoonery is what's standing in my way. I have something of
the case.
Mr. Bean to me, you know? I'm just like,
yeah.
So I got back in the thing. I mean, it's nice to acknowledge the sort of silliness of the whole thing.
Sure.
But then I'm floating and the oming is annoying. And so I reach over to hit the button and it does not work. The sound button does not work. Another thing, I don't know if you've ever tried to push a button while you are floating, but it just pushes you away. So you have to brace yourself on the other side of the float tank to then push it. And also just like touching the sides of the float tank really takes you out of the whole
gives you a sense of the
Yeah. And so I'm just trying to kind of chill out. I'm trying to meditate or whatever. And suddenly the music becomes louder in my head. And I'm like, oh shit, am I kind of getting into this? Am I sort of settling in? And then my head bonks the speaker. Because I had just floated over to it gently. And it got louder. And so then I just, it became good practice in enduring something just like non-preferred, not even unpleasant, just like I don't really want to be here anymore.
That's what I was gesturing at. It's like, is this perhaps a way to force yourself to say, can I accept these things that will be ever present in my life and still find a way to relax?
Yeah, but then I'm also at war with the part of me that like does make me sit through stuff I don't like because I don't have the like self-respect to extricate myself from a situation I don't need to be in. But I decided to kind of ride it out, and then at a certain point I thought, all right, that's enough. And I got up to take my little shower. Wonderful. That's the best part of the thing, which is damning. And then I look at my phone and I had made it 55 minutes.
Oh, that's not bad.
Almost an hour. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say something totally humiliating, like you paid $67 for a 12-minute experience.
I was worried that I was going to get out, and it had been like 5 minutes. Yeah. No, I had done a full 55. And then I grabbed a coconut water on the way out, which went down real nice because I'd been pickling myself in brine.
Yeah, of course.
And then I came home and I had an exquisite nap on the couch. And it was not $67 plus the coconut. Well, not $71 better of a nap than I would have had if I had just gone straight home.
Yeah. But
and then I thought this will be great for the underneath episode, and then I realized no, it won't. Floating is the opposite of underneath.
Floating is
floating is close to floating is in the family.
Yeah.
My little butt was famously underneath the water.
Exactly. That's the thing about floating. I think some of you is almost inevitably underneath.
That's the float tank story.
Now, if that sounds like a shallow segue, this is about the level of thought that Soderbergh seems to have given to the title of his film, which in an interview he said,
we tried a couple.
Actually, the title of the film came from a little clue I wanted to give the audience about thinking about what was happening beneath the surface.
Damn, that's crazy. Huge if true.
And I'm teasing my man because he is hard on this movie.
He's very hard on this film.
Not like this movie. He likes it way less than I do. I'll say that.
Here's a good way to set up our discussion of the underneath. This is Mr. Steven Soderbergh from a Blu-ray retrospective interview.
I can't say that I would recommend it to anyone other than to look at it in the context of a career.
Thank you, Steven.
Yeah, ready to go.
All right. Reporting for duty.
Yep. We're talking about the Underneath. The Underneath, this is a Steven Soderbergh film from April 25th, 1995.
Mm-hmm.
That's 1 week, roughly, after the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't really know if that is relevant in any way, but Jonathan Rosenbaum, in his review at the time, mentioned it. So, seems like at least one person was thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Had you seen this film before, Ian?
I had only seen this film within the last year and a half.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. I'm not sure if it was after we decided we were going to do this guy or when we were talking about it or something. But I wasn't really sure what to expect. It is generally kind of derided, and I didn't even know at the time what Soderbergh felt about it. I'm going to say right now, I think that there are interesting pieces to this film. I think the first half of the film, I straight up like. I liked watching it. And I don't know. I think that people pretty much only discuss it in terms of like, here's how you can understand techniques he was developing, things he was trying out, things that would be of interest or stopped being of interest to him. But I do think there's a little bit more to it than that. Obviously, this is not an original. This is a remake of a 1949 Robert Siodmak film, kind of.
I mean, it's like sort of ostensibly a remake, but it's not. It's a remake.
I mean, I think in the tradition of noir films, there's a great range of like how loyal these things are to their source material.
First of all, thank you for asking. I had seen the film before.
Okay.
When I worked at the video store, which I've talked about on the show, I had this film sort of in my mind fused with a 1987 film called The Hidden.
Okay, what is this film?
Which stars, it's a film by Jack Shoulder, which stars Kyle MacLachlan and Michael Nouri and also Chris Mulkey. Clu Gulager is a big Jeremy Allison guy. This is like a movie about a bank robbery that's done by a alien. It's like an X-Files adjacent thing. The poster that is also the Blu-ray art for both of these films, the posters look very similar. And Kyle MacLachlan and Peter Gallagher are not that far from one another, type of guy-wise, handsome.
Wow,
sort of
totally
slight,
disagree.
Black-haired guy. You don't think they could play the same character?
No.
Interesting. I mean, not every character, but like...
No, I think I get totally different approaches to like what does humanity offer from these two different types
they
of
both
guys.
know Harry Goaz.
That's true. That's correct. I don't deny it.
Anyway, so I rented them. I decided to take them both home and find out what's the difference between the two.
That was your artistic goal.
And I found the Hidden is fun.
Okay.
I like Chris Mulkey. And
sure.
the Underneath I found sort of cold and... it's very clear the guy making it was kind of bored, I think.
Yeah,
despite engaging himself in like difficult ways. Like if you're really bored, like if I'm bored, I'm not putting this much effort into color theory and
which he certainly was.
All of that. I'm not doing ectochrome process experiments.
No, you're not.
But so Soderbergh's coming off of King of the Hill, which was appreciated critically. Nobody came.
No, but it was also Gramercy. What is like the second Gramercy film or something?
Yeah. Gramercy Pictures, which was the sort of independent cinema co-optation arm of Universal. A lot of after the indie boom.
Yeah, one of these things that he kind of helped like usher in with the success of Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
God, imagine if Usher was in this movie. Be good with his perfectly round head.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I mean, Gramercy makes. They're doing Linklater, Dazed and Confused. They do big stuff in the 90s. They weren't messing around. And at the time, Soderbergh talks about being appreciative of the fact that they were busy making Waterworld, which means not Gramercy, but Universal. Yeah. And he said that
that's really
that
funny.
basically meant that this was like totally hands-off process where he could do whatever he wanted.
That is the opposite of Underneath because everything's floating.
You're right.
Floating fortresses called atolls. You like Waterworld?
I like it well enough.
I think it's bad.
Yeah, I mean...
The only good part of it is the part that they turned into Waterworld: A Live Seawar Spectacular.
I think we both know that we enjoy.
Have we talked about this on the show? The Waterworld Stunt Show? It seems like something that will come up.
It does. I don't know if we have time for it right now because we haven't really talked about the movie yet, but...
We'll talk about it later. Briefly, I found out that one of my new neighbors is in the Waterworld.
That's incredible. That's as good as Los Angeles gets. That's way better than living next door to Tom Holland or whatever.
I'm more nervous about like if I found out that if one of my neighbors opened the door and it was like Cameron Diaz, I would be less nervous seeing her around the building than if it was.
This person makes dreams a reality.
He falls like 40 feet into the water like a couple times a day for work. It's cool. Anyway, so they're busy with Waterworld.
And he's he didn't want to do this. So what did he want to do? Yeah, you know this?
There's a lot of... So he wanted to do Last Ship.
Okay, we know he wanted to do Last Ship. Yeah, I think at this point...
He wanted to do Last Ship.
He thought he was going to get Quiz Show.
Right.
Yeah. So he was like gearing up for this, tight little grounded in realism story about undermining our sense of trust in civil society or media.
John
or
Turturro as Jewish Roger Rabbit.
Yeah. Yep. But no.
And then
I don't know this for a fact, but I imagine that maybe part of the Redford Soderbergh split ended this possibility. Yep, he did. Yeah.
His marriage is also falling apart.
Yes.
Or I think falls apart.
It has fallen apart. Yeah.
Marriage to Betsy Brantley.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's at Universal's like, hey, we want to remake CRISS-CROSS.
I think he's never even heard of it.
He's never seen it. Yeah. They want to remake this Robert Siodmak film noir from 1940, what?
I think 49, maybe 48.
49, you're right. Which is based on a Don Tracy novel from 1934. Always weird when something, because film noir, which is a retrospectively applied term to what at the time were usually called crime films or melodramas or whatever, a certain featuring certain artistic moves.
I'm going to invoke our old buddy Paul Schrader throughout the episode, but of course he says that it's not even a genre, it's like a theme where obviously it's associated with hard-boiled stories and certain expressionistic conventions, but he says that any story that has this emotional cynicism can be film noir from this period. Porno. Yeah.
Some of those are science fiction, some of them are
or
slice of life.
Yep.
Some of them are Seinfeld.
That's right.
Well, it specifically ain't Seinfeld.
That's okay.
I think that has James Dean from The Canyons. I think he plays Jerry Seinfeld in that.
Okay, well, I hope he receives punishment one day for his crimes.
Which one? Both of them?
Yeah.
So this is I think of film noir and the trappings of noir, and especially the themes and the kind of prototypical noir protagonist as being a distinctly post-war phenomenon.
Yes.
Or during the war. So it's interesting that this comes out of a novel from 1934, which is pre-war.
Well, it's pre the Second War, but when people talk about the cynical turn in the United States, a lot of it, or even in the United Kingdom, a lot of it's post World War I, right? This loss of faith in institutions and stuff. And then that's where you get Hammett and Chandler and all these guys.
You're at Walt Disney.
Yep, that's right.
He was a ambulance driver in World War I.
Whoa,
yeah, that's true. He met he met another ambulance driver, Ray
Michael
Kroc,
Mouse,
Mr. McDonald. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's cool. That's weird.
The fuck was I talking about?
So we got the Don Tracy book. You read some of this, all of this? I didn't look at the book.
All of this. This is. Hold your applause, audience. Well, you can applaud. I don't know. You're by yourself, probably. I mean, definitely.
Okay.
This is the first time I have finished a source material novel for the film, for the podcast since, do you want to guess? It's embarrassing.
I have no idea.
The Iger Sanction.
Wow. That's
the last novel I got to the end of.
Kind of in the lineage here. Interesting.
Yeah. It's
Mishima,
it goes
not
quick.
Worth the time, but the Iger Sanction.
Well, Mishima's not about it's about 4 of his books, so I read little bits of each of those, you know?
Yeah, but they're good in my opinion. That's the difference. They're good to
read. But they're long.
Yeah, kind of long.
I was getting ready, and also I was probably doing something else at the time, GameCube. But I read CRISS-CROSS, the Don Tracy novel, and I also watched CRISS-CROSS, the film. I assume you watched the film.
I watched CRISS-CROSS, yes.
I guess a quick rundown of the kind of vibe of the novel.
Yeah, tell us about the novel.
It's hard-boiled fiction. It's sort of classic hard-boiled style fiction. Lots of slurs, misogyny, kind of archetypal. It concerns a washed-up boxer. He's 25, but I think it takes place in Baltimore. I think he just talks about how the fight game is sort of gone. He just can't make money, and so he gets a job with an armored car company because he's a tough guy.
Okay.
And he's also in love with a woman named Anna. He describes her as a Polak, which I can say. She's very beautiful to him.
Mm-hmm.
he talks about her long pointed breasts.
He sure does. You sent me this screenshot.
Ian and I discussed whether or not this was...
Was this like a countercultural choice, or is this a...
Yeah, is this part of the beauty, or is this just sort of like a piece of world building? We'll never know. And so he's kind of like addicted to this woman's attention. It's really... It plays as like a craving.
I think this is relevant to the both film adaptations.
I think so too. She basically, she is depicted as someone who wants money, wants the fine things, and will give him the time of day only when he takes her out on the town, and she'll kind of string him along, and like she'll dance close to him but won't kiss him, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's also a former boxer named Slim who is now kind of like a fancy guy and does mob stuff, does kind of small time robberies.
This is the Dundee character, or this is not?
This is the Dundee character.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is what becomes the William Fichtner character in this film. But he doesn't like own a club. He's just kind of a slickster who does... got
his fingers in different pies and is doing
yeah,
little,
exactly.
Yeah.
And he also starts to attract the interest of Anna because he has even more money. And Johnny, who's the protagonist, Johnny Thompson, I think, he lives with his mother and his younger brother, who has a profound stutter, who's like he repeatedly talks about how he is ugly, and even more so because of his boxing career, he refers constantly to his flat nose. His nose got flattened.
Okay.
And his brother, he says, is handsome, but he has a very strong stutter, which is insensitively rendered by Don Tracy.
Although I think in some ways that's the type of noir note that I think is kind of effective, because it speaks to the cruelty of a world where probably like having a stutter was disqualifying for people.
Right. No, he can't get a job.
Yeah.
And so Slim is like, let me get your kid brother like, you've always been nice to me. Let me get your kid brother a job. And Johnny's worried that because he doesn't want his brother to get mixed up with the kind of crowd that Slim runs with. But he's like, no, it's with a legitimate guy. What kind of guy do you think I am? Anna and Slim get married all of a sudden. And then suddenly she is interested in him now that it's sort of bad for her to be interested in him. So they begin an affair. This is where he learns about the long pointed breasts.
Yeah.
Before, I guess he could only surmise. So they begin to conduct an affair. And at this point, Slim approaches him about doing a job knocking over the armored cars. And he's like, well, can I say no now that I've heard about it? And Slim's like, not really. So he's sort of he's in it. During the planning process, he begins to suspect that Slim has figured out that he and Anna are sleeping together, and that Slim is going to use this as an opportunity to kill him.
Yep.
And so he decides he is going to use it as an opportunity to kill Slim. And so during the heist sequence, which is closer to the Siodmak film, although pared down, it's got the whole book has like 5 characters in it. He gets shot several times because his gun jams, and then he fixes it and he kills Slim and Slim's accomplice, Slim's friend Mickey.
Okay.
And then there's a guy in the getaway car who he realizes is his brother, who drives away.
I see.
But he is hailed as a hero because he stops the robbery entirely. The old guy, there's a guy named like Old Mac or something, who is with him, I believe, does not die.
Okay.
And so they suspect that he's involved, but they can't prove it. And so he gets away with it. And then there's like a pretty long coda where he and Anna get married. He progresses up through the armored car company because he's like the hero. And it also, he's able to like turn this into, he becomes like a pretty good salesman because, banks or whatever they'll agree to take the pitch because they want to meet the guy who killed
the big hero, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he like up and up and up. He's like, and it talks very specifically about, when he's driving the armored car, he was making 4 bits a week. He also, there's all kinds of great like noir terms for money.
Cool.
He'll talk about how he had 15 fish in his pocket.
Great.
Or like he's in the back of a car with 46,000 potatoes.
Wonderful.
But yeah, so he goes from like making $4 a week to making $120 a week. Like really up and up.
Yeah.
And Anna, he's pretty concerned that she is going to repeat this pattern of wanting to conduct an extramarital affair. but he can't prove it. But he's on the road all the time. And then he comes home to find her with his brother.
I see. And what does he do?
Doesn't know what to do.
Okay.
He goes back to, he doesn't know what to do. He goes back to the office. He's about to kill himself when a kid who he basically said, like, get out of here, kid, at one point, like a chapter before, just comes in and shoots him in the belly.
Wow.
And this whole time he's been kind of haunted by the laughter of Slim. He's been hearing Slim's sort of, he's like a cosmic loser, this guy. And so even as he succeeds, he hears Slim cackling at his various misfortunes or any like
anticipating his failure, maybe.
And so as he's dying, he's excited. He's like, finally, the laughter will stop. And in the end of the novel, he wakes up in a hospital and a doctor's like, sir, it's as if lead is what's keeping you alive. It's like your body needs it.
Okay.
And then he hears Slim's laugh and like, yeah, he's trapped. And so this sort of, first of all, it's very funny that this character who's like defined by his ugliness and the fact that no women want him except if he has money is played first by Burt Lancaster
Yes.
and then by Peter Gallagher.
Yeah.
But I notice, I think Soderbergh pulls a lot of the pieces that Soderbergh pulls from CRISS-CROSS, the film, to the extent that he carries them over, they all feel like production code stuff, like the fact that the protagonist in CRISS-CROSS, Steve and Anna, are formerly married. That's very production code. Like, in order for these people to be attracted to each other despite another marriage, like, it helps that they used to be married. It's kind of it's less
for sure. You don't have to have as much on-screen discussion of this stuff or depiction.
Right, exactly.
But I agree with you that it's interesting because, of course, Soderbergh talks very explicitly about how the things that he was most invested in emotionally, and he doesn't sound like he's very invested, are things related to his recently failed marriage. So he talks about how, like, seeing in this character somebody who has wrecked somebody else's life, and is maybe like dreaming of making amends somehow, and like. But
he also brings in Elizabeth Shue. Like, what if two different famously beautiful women want to have sex with this guy at the same time?
Of course,
like they're competing with one another.
Should we talk about the plot of the actual film, and then maybe we can highlight distinctions from CRISS-CROSS, just so it doesn't get too confused?
Yeah.
All right.
Would you please do the honors?
Of course. We'll try to keep it brief here. So, film opens. Peter Gallagher's character is returning to a home in Texas. His mother is getting married. Yes. His mother's getting married to Paul Dooley. So he's like, and he is kind of a Paul Dooley style, like nice, sweet older guy character.
Right. He'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Exactly. Yeah. Check out our Old Mania episode.
About Papa. He plays J. Wellington Wimpy.
He does. And he's returning to town, and we get little hints, little like breadcrumbs. This is kind of an ignoble return. And the story is told in nonlinear fashion, which is also the case for the 49 film that opens in the midst of the planning of things in a sort of like in a weird, confused fashion.
Can I stop you there real quick? Because Soderbergh talks a lot about how he's thinking of these different temporal levels and how there are different at different stages in the editing. There were like really confusing versions of the film. Now, I had just read the novel and seen the first film, so I'm probably not a good judge of this. Did you find the film confusing?
I did not. I think sometimes you're more critical of like these sort of intentionally obfuscating plot choices in a movie. This film is, I mean, it's doing color cueing, first of all. So it's doing like really strong visual effects to indicate which part of the timeline. There's like three timelines. Which becomes a
classic Soderbergh move.
He says that. He says
really loves that.
Yeah. He's playing around for the first time. There's also like in almost over the top, I would say like 1940s era Hollywood fashion. He's like got a big beard for one timeline to sort of indicate like this is from before. All right.
Right. And the Gallagher performance really changes.
Yeah. No, I think it was pretty straightforward to follow.
Yeah, I wonder if like, because this is the year after Pulp Fiction.
It is.
Which also a young guy winning the Palme d'Or.
Yeah.
I wonder if people still just like weren't quite hip to that sort of editing, that sort of structure in a like a non-art film.
Yeah, but what I would say is weird is, I mean, even Paul Schrader talks about traditional noir often featuring this sort of like cutting back and forth. I mean, you have to pick like a simpler, like a Sunset Boulevard or something, right? That is, you know.
Yeah. There's like, check out David Bordwell's film Reinventing Hollywood, which is about how in the 1940s, basically every like convention of screenwriting came about. Like this was all invented. No one had ever started at a weird time in the story before. Until the 40s. Yeah,
although, you know, I think there's been some recent film scholarship that says like some of that stuff was around since like 1910 or whatever.
Sure. But in Hollywood, where everyone's an idiot.
Yeah,
to be clear.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. So
it's okay.
You're telling the story.
I think you're absolutely right to say this. So simultaneously, we're getting him in an armored truck with his stepfather. Like this is like sort of in the near future. And there's a lot of tension in those scenes, I think clear to any film viewer that this is probably part of some type of crime or something's going to happen in that part of the story.
He's like eyeing this panel van suspiciously.
Exactly.
And it's then very green.
Yeah, so
it's like through the green windshield,
of
it seems like
the armored truck. Yeah.
Which it's made out of like the banker visor green from like an old movie.
I got to tell you, I like this stuff. We're getting off track almost immediately, but Soderbergh talks about, he sees this as like maybe kind of empty formalism that doesn't enhance any type of emotional stuff in the film. Yeah, I want to talk about when I think that this like strong formal choices can be effective, even when maybe there's not like a lot going on in the movie.
Later.
Yeah. All right. So very fast. So he goes, his mom's getting remarried. His brother's a cop. His brother seems to have a weird contentious relationship with him. And then we start hopping to the past, where we see him in a relationship with this woman, Rachel, and
Allison Elliott.
Exactly. Allison Elliott. Yep.
Sort of a discovery for this film.
Yeah. And he was kind of like a gambling addict, dirtbag type of a guy, constantly putting their relationship and his life in danger by like sports betting or spending irresponsibly and doing this type of stuff.
The world's largest satellite dish.
Yes.
Being installed by Soderbergh's friend David Jansen.
Yeah, he buys a satellite dish that is like kind of a joke in the movie, but is so ridiculous that it's kind of, it takes you out a little bit. But all right, so we see the sort of the collapse of their relationship in the past. We see him now in Texas seeking out Rachel, who's in a relationship with this character, the equivalent of Slim that you were talking about, played by William Fichtner. Tommy, I think, in this one.
Tommy Dundee.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's like a club owner, but also is involved with crime, seemingly, and is kind of a rough, like abusive partner to Rachel.
Just to interrupt really quickly, because you like it so much.
I do.
It's very funny. And I know that, like, whatever, guys in big bands were, like, doing heroin and shooting each other. But it's... I had this thought when Hootie and the Blowfish came on the radio in the car that like terrifying GHB wielding frat boys in the 90s, that was their soundtrack. Like it's really weird to think of that as the music of these frightening people. And by a similar token, that Tommy owns the Ember, which is like an Austin rock club. And to think of the music that is played in this film by the band Cowboy Mouth, for example, as like the music of a scary, crime-affiliated, unpredictable, violent man is really funny.
I gotta tell you though, man, I liked the band stuff. It is extremely of its time.
Oh no, I don't dislike it. Yeah. It's just it's like if the Bronze from Buffy the Vampire Slayer was supposed to be
I immediately said this is like the Bronze. Yeah,
scum and villainy.
Yes.
Well, and Tara from Buffy was in
it's true.
the
Buffy's
last film
we
talked about.
Yeah, you're right.
Buffy's on the brain.
All right, so we see these things unfold. He's trying to get back with Rachel. He gets a job at the armored truck company that his new stepfather works at. And unfortunately, we have to explain by necessity that this is like a company that's owned by Jodan Baker and
JDB.
He's like very proud of how it represents the cutting edge of armored truck technology, and they have a little magazine that they publish.
Yeah,
like an
Armored
industry.
Transport Now magazine.
Yes.
Yeah. I applied for a job very recently at it's like a software company that was spun out of a trucking company.
Whoa.
Really similar to this, where the guy was a trucker who realized that first he was a truck driver, started a truck company, and then realized that all trucking company websites are shit, and was like, I'm going to start a software company to develop better websites for trucking companies. And so part of, I didn't end up taking the job because the whole thing seemed a little underdeveloped. But part of it was like, I would look up the address for where to go for the interview, and it said it was like 2 different other businesses. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And it turns out it's because this man has diversified so quickly that he's like a trucking company and a trucking insurance company and a software company.
Yes.
At the same time.
It is very much
this is a real thing. But imagine if Jodan Baker were Armenian.
I'm imagining it now.
Now
what
I
a
can't
delight.
stop. Yeah.
So yeah, he does an interview there. He's worried about the polygraph because of his shady past, but he gets the job. It's all fine. And he's pursuing Rachel behind Tommy's back. Tommy's kind of finding out. And then we get this weird twist where Rachel disappears. She comes back. She's married to Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
Our Peter Gallagher doesn't understand why. And he finally talks to her and she says, well, it's because your brother threatened me and he's been like secretly pursuing me ever since you left. Because we find out that at the end of their original relationship, he got into really bad debt and he just disappeared. He just like went AWOL, left the state.
Yeah. He mentions working on offshore on oil rigs.
Yes.
Which is the kind of thing you do, I think, if you owe a bunch of people money in Texas specifically.
I think that's right. So she says he threatened me, so like I just wanted to avoid the whole situation, blah, blah, blah. Tommy discovers them together, and as a kind of a way of getting out of the situation, and also maybe because he wants money and he is kind of a guy like looking to fix his life quickly, he offers this job to Tommy. He says, like, we could do a job.
I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah, about robbing the armored truck company. So they plan the job. There's some mysterious stuff where there's like a broker guy, like Heat or something, who like plans these jobs.
Yeah, there's this out-of-town guy who he's never seen his face.
Yeah.
But this guy's going to set it all up for us.
And
you don't like that?
I don't like where it goes.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think where it goes is lightly interesting as far as a political read of the film.
Okay, that I might agree with. All right, but up until this point, just to give non-viewers a sense of the style, this has been kind of like a slow, a lot of intentional formalism with color and camera movement and split diopter stuff that we can talk about. And then right about like 55 minutes into the movie, it becomes something to me that is like immediately recognizable to anybody who's seen Out of Sight or Ocean's 11. This like quick cutting, clever, sort of like underexplained, highly stylized heist. And I think that's, this is what people mean when they say like he's trying stuff out that he's going to become interested in. And so the heist happens. Sorry, you want to? I was going to say the heist in the novel takes a while and is pretty well written, pretty exciting. The heist in the 1949 film, I think, is very cool. Lots of smoke, it's strange. Cutting to like low angles and weird stuff. Yeah. And then the heist in this film lasts about 20 seconds. I think the lead up to the heist is much more interesting than the heist itself. You're right. The sort of explosive fight, the shootout, is like over immediately. Yeah. Which lends credence to Soderbergh's suggestion that his film is more of a romance with a crime in the middle of it. It's true. Or a romantic film, relationship movie. I think call it a relationship movie with a crime in the middle of it. So sadly, tragically, but maybe predictably, his stepfather gets shot in the midst of this heist. Bang. And and I haven't mentioned, but there's like a second love interest who he met on the bus. You mentioned the Elizabeth Shue character. Has this ever happened to you? You're not a bad looking guy. You take the bus a lot. You ever have a lady just obviously display significant interest in you? With as much humility as possible. This has happened to me. But I also think it's kind of a contextual thing. It's like a summer camp romance type of thing where... Oh, sure. She saw you coming out of the bathroom, obviously doing the bigger of the two moves in there. It's weirder. It's like a weird circumstance out of time. You sort of like brought in immediate close proximity to people for a long period. Yeah, no, this is the kind of thing that I have hoped would happen to me all sorts of times in my life, and it never really came to pass. But me and the only other person under like 65 on the cruise to Alaska I went on when I was 14. Let's have the same neck pillow, nodding at each other. Yeah, no, she
Yeah, just, I guess she had her own stuff going on or whatever, so it's fine.
Maybe next time.
Water under the bridge.
Yeah.
Water underneath.
Yeah, water underneath the bridge.
The cruise ship.
So then,
did I ever tell you the story about the cruise to Alaska really quickly?
Okay, is it possible?
There's like one open sea day because normally you're in like a strait, so it's pretty calm. But they're like, just so you know, tomorrow could be a little choppy.
Sure.
Boy, was it choppy, but it was also for some reason because it was a sea day. You don't stop anywhere that day, so all the activities were planned to be on the boat, and so there was an ice sculpture demonstration.
Oh,
but
with a chainsaw or with a
chainsaw on the Lido deck or whatever, but. Then the water got really choppy, and they had done the ice sculpture right next to the jacuzzi. So all this hot water starts splashing onto the half-finished ice sculpture, ruining it. It's really funny.
Oh, man. That's brutal.
Yeah. I don't know why they did it there. Should have done it anywhere else on the boat. Yeah, almost the entire boat is not next to the hot tub. Right.
Yeah. Frustrating to be that guy. That's probably like his big moment on each trip, too. All right. So... okay, the heist goes kind of badly, and like because Peter Gallagher is trying to protect his stepfather, he is kind of defending the money that he's involved in stealing. So he shoots people and gets.
Well, and also Susan, the Elizabeth Shue character, comes out. He didn't expect her to be present, right. So now he's like, "Oh, I can't have bullets flying near this woman that I've slept with."
Yes, so he seems to like genuinely intervene, trying to avoid it. Gets knocked out, ends up in the hospital. Wakes up in sort of semi-delirium in this ongoing sequence where he sort of like emerges from the depths of unconsciousness, talks to somebody, and there's these different experiences. Like his mother is like mourning her newly dead ex-husband, and the company is really proud of him and says like he did a great job defending them. His brother, the cop, says, "I don't believe you. I know you're on the inside. Like you did this. This is all bullshit." So when he finally really returns to consciousness, he is worried that Tommy's going to send somebody to kill him or to get revenge or find out where the money is, because his plan was to have the money sent secretly with Rachel to like their little cabin getaway, Lonesome Pine. Like, she was going to wait for him. Whispering Pines, excuse me.
I know about this there's a song by the band.
Ah, okay.
Whispering Pines.
Sounds pretty good.
That was Rick Danko, obviously.
That was a little bit of Rick Danko, yeah. So he encounters this character, this guy in the hallway. Well, first, Nurse Shelley Duvall shows up. Yeah. This sequence,
a lot of reviewers highlight this sequence, the highlight of the film aesthetically. I agree with them. This is insane. They built like a crazy hospital room with the ceiling is on some kind of like hinge so they can really screw with the perspective. They had different sizes of windows that they like swap out.
Soderbergh collaborator Howard Cummings built this like forced perspective hallway because, I mean, this is borrowed from the CRISS-CROSS. I don't know if this is in the novel, but it's in the film where like he's looking through the mirror down this hallway to see like who might be coming in the hospital.
Howard Cummings so fast, Ian?
Yeah, I've gotten that before. Yeah, thank you, Kenny.
Mm-hmm. It's Soderbergh's, he talks about, he has these rules for avoiding noir trappings, like no smoke, no hats. But then this gets really into, I mean, it's sort of between the more abstract or stylized noir moves and then something like Frankenheimer's Seconds.
Yep.
Or these kind of, when the noir moves get even more experimental as the genre goes on, I guess. It's cool.
I think this scene's great. Joe Crest returning from King of the Hill.
Oh, yeah.
He's amazing in this scene.
Incredibly good. Yeah. He is as good. I would say that the guy who plays the brother, Adam Trees.
So when you were talking about how good this scene is, the low point in the film to me is the confrontation scene with his brother, where he gives this emotional exposition speech, which I will say is shocking because Soderbergh really likes that waking up in the hospital sequence. I think the other interactions are fine. The brother speech is terrible. It's really, really bad. And then it's followed by this great. So Shelley Duvall brings this like surreal quality because she's sort of like, she's like acting like Shelley Duvall and her hair is dyed and stuff.
I mean, Soderbergh says that's why he hired her. It's like, what if you woke up in a hospital, who would be the most disorienting nurse to walk in? Probably Shelley Duvall, right?
Yeah, it's great.
And also she's a Texas lady. Yeah.
So I think that really works. And I alighted the fact that also working at the trucking company is Goaz, I mentioned before, I think very clearly taken from Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks on the brain, this sort of weirdness suddenly is part of the film. Joe Crest, he's worried that Joe Crest is coming to kill him. And then Joe Crest like shows him that he is just there for his sister who was in an accident. And then he has this like walkie-talkie for or it's like a big cell phone or whatever it is for his job.
Yeah, he's a real estate guy.
Yeah. And
he claims.
So Peter Gallagher apologizes and says like, I'm so sorry, I'm being paranoid. And he says like, can you watch me while I nap? Which I think is like that to me is like talking about like weird code stuff. I feel like you get this type of strangeness in 40s movies.
Yeah.
Literally we do get this. And then he wakes up with Joe Crest covering his mouth. And again, borrowing directly from the Siodmak film, he like cuts the IV and stuff so that he can take him away.
I mean, Soderbergh, in an interview with Positif magazine, he literally says, there were two things I wanted to use from CRISS-CROSS. The idea of a man coming back home and wanting to reestablish a rapport with his ex-wife and the hospital scene.
Yeah. Which I understand. I mean, that part's really good.
Right. And he expands on the hospital scene.
He does. I think it's good in the original, and you're right. He brings his own stuff to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then anyway, he gets dragged out to the cabin. Tommy's there, so it seems like Rachel has double-crossed him, bringing Tommy in. And
CRISS-CROSS.
Tommy says he's going to kill him, kills the Joe Crest character just to like cover his tracks or whatever. And then when Tommy drags the Joe Crest character's body out to the car, he comes back and Rachel has given the gun to Peter Gallagher, to Michael. So he's waiting to flip things. So Michael shoots Tommy. There's a little fight, whatever, falls on the floor. And then Rachel picks up the gun and double crosses him and says, I didn't understand when you left how you could walk out on me, how you could treat me like just anybody else, any random person. But now I understand what the draw of disappearing is. And she takes the money. She goes, this is a little bit distinct from the CRISS-CROSS film where there is this similar like back and forth betrayal stuff. But then Tommy comes the equivalent Tommy character comes and shoots them both in that movie.
Yeah.
So she walks away. Peter Gallagher just left.
As I presume as like punishment for their violating the marital.
I think that's right. Yes. And then in the underneath, she disappears with the money, goes to a gas station, and what we find out is that this like mysterious broker character seems to have been monitoring all of this and has been waiting to follow them and get the money back. And it's revealed to be the Joe Don Baker armored truck.
JDB, baby.
Yeah. This was like absolute aspartame to me when I was watching this was just like empty nonsense.
Dr. Diet Coke over here, first of all. I love aspartame.
You're right.
I think I'd die without it.
Maybe that's why you like this part.
Well, there's a few things to talk about. First of all, I do want to read the part of CRISS-CROSS that I sent you that you thought sucked.
Please, yeah, go ahead.
Because it's funny. This is from Don Tracy's novel. Double cross on double cross. So many of them piled on top of each other. Double cross on double cross until the jumble became a big crisscross. Crisscross. He says it again.
Sucks so bad.
Well, but to be clear, the protagonist is stupid and keeps getting tricked, and also was professionally a guy who got punched.
I will say that you do get that sometimes in noir films, or in noir, like hard-boiled fiction, where you tempted to like condescend to somebody, but that's like kind of the point, is that it's this detective who like doesn't really understand the world around him or believes that he does. We're getting pretty close to hard-boiled
being a fiction. What with the price of eggs?
We are getting close to that. Yeah. All right. So what do you want to say about this movie? I mean, I think we got to talk about Soderbergh's feelings about it. I want to talk about formal choices. I want to talk about just like noir concerns and how they fit into this.
I mean, so he talks about, he actually gives a pretty definition of noir that I like.
I liked this too. You're talking about from the interview
positive
book. Yeah.
Please,
read this.
It's a little bit weird. This is from the Steven Soderbergh interviews book. It's funny. It was, I believe, originally published in French and then translated back to English for this book. So
gives him this
he comes across
arcane
a little C3PO.
quality. Yeah, I like it.
Hey, both bald kings.
That's true.
There's a version of Star Wars where C-3PO has hair that I have access to.
Okay.
Fuck. Terrifying.
Man, I do not know what kind of hairstyle you think you got. Like a refined Caesar cut, maybe?
Not the one you're thinking of.
Not that
Classic
one.
Kimmy.
All right.
Enigmatic.
Yeah.
So his definition of noir, he says, there is a central idea in this genre that I like a lot. A character lives as a function of a certain number of values in which he or she believes, and in relation to a moral code. When they start to want something very strongly, just for a moment, they think they can cross that line, crisscross, that line that they themselves established in order to get what they want, and then go back to the way things were. Naturally, they find out that's not possible. It's a recurring theme in all the films of this genre that I like. Oh, no wet pavement. That's the other thing he says.
Yes, he does say that. Yeah.
Spraying Stephen Malcolmus with a hose. Hey, come on. Hey, come on. But yeah, I like that. And I think it's interesting to think of Soderbergh specifically as a guy who likes to break a rule, like it is sort of a rule of his that he's going to do something weird every time in his films. That what draws him to these is like this moral code, this idea of a moral code that is suddenly it's made flexible by like a desire. Because I think of Soderbergh as a cool guy, as a sort of a cool customer and an unflappable man. But then it sounds like he was perhaps had trouble with fidelity, I guess, in his early days at least. And so him like making the character, he says he talks about he tried a number of different addictions. Like it wasn't always gambling addiction in the early drafts of the script, but to think of Soderbergh saying like, this character is very close to me. Like this is what I related to about this character.
Yeah. At the time he says, this is the closest character I've written to myself.
Right. Since then, probably Basher Tarr, the Don Cheadle Cockney explosives expert. Yeah. I don't know. There's something compelling about that to me.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, this really stood out to me when Soderbergh talks in that Blu-ray featurette about feeling like from the very beginning of this film, he thinks it's way too slow. He says like just even the title sequence itself is, I mean, the title sequence is not great, but I think it's like it marks this transition point for me because Sex, Lies, and Videotape is a patient movie. That is like what the movie is. It's not Speed Racer. Yeah, and that's why I don't see that. For me, the first half of the movie succeeds way better, and it's not an inherent flaw. I will admit that I think it's just part of my film viewing approach that any film that is making like strong choices and letting you sit with them, if they're trying to do anything unconventional or like there seems to be emotional underpinnings, I think I do like empty space movies where maybe I'm projecting some or like bringing my own stuff to it, doing some writing. But I think to me, that's infinitely more interesting. I will say I like this film better than King of the Hill, which I think is much more conventionally made, much more conventionally successful, but is just boring to me. To me, it's like doing one of the worst crimes, which is using film convention and trying to use it to say the things that it was made for originally, which means that you're not doing anything that is like almost worth making a movie about to me. The trouble with cliches isn't that they've been used before. It's that they have no effect on people because they like become meaningless.
Right.
So I think that's why I prefer this weirdness. I mean, the split diopter scene he thinks is like a great shame of his life, basically, where we have this dinner table interaction between Peter Gallagher, his mom, his brother, and his new stepfather. And I don't know, I mean, it's like a alienating formal choice that makes you reconsider. It's like forcing you to pay attention because it's so in your face. And it is kind of weird and fun to look at. And it's like drawing attention to different pairings. You know, it's sort of saying like him and his brother,
right.
him and this new man in his life who seems to be like a genuinely good person. So I liked that. I was watching that and thinking, this is kind of cool. I remember when I was watching it a year ago, whatever, I was thinking, why do people hate this movie so much?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you were talking about formal innovation or formal experimentation as sort of its own, I don't know, reason to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminded me of, I think you said this about, what's it called? Wendell? What's the short film?
Winston? What?
Winston, that Sex, Lies, and Videotape kind of expands out of. And you I think you described it as like a sort of film school style, like trying every shot type.
Yep.
And I think, what is the purpose of remaking a film, specifically remaking a film? Film noir is, you know, it's about atmosphere and it's about moral gray areas, but it's also about kind of twisty plotting, and like it's often just pleasurable to watch for the sake of its story. So if you're remaking a film that is conventional in the sense of like, who doesn't like a heist movie?
Right. Yeah.
Why not mess around? Why not use it as a canvas on which to do some weird stuff? I mean, I really like he does a lot of the filter stuff that'll come into play, and like the commentary for Out of Sight is where I learned about lens filters, like color filters on cameras.
Yeah, I mean, he says like this, he had to be intentional because this was like pre-digital intermediate by a couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, you know, there's the scene where they're under the bridge, under the overpass, which he describes.
I thought this was beautiful. You didn't think this scene was good?
It's extremely blue. I liked it. But then he talks about in that retrospective interview, he talks about this as like the moment where he was like the most tapped out, just imagining Schizopolis and thinking like,
he said,
I can't do this again.
Exactly. He says some variation of like, I'm ashamed of this because when I shot that, no part of me was paying attention to it. Like I did a disservice. He says like all the actors did a great job. Universal showed up. I just wasn't there, and maybe the film would be better if I had been there. I mean, it's not like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I'm not putting it in like that. It's interesting. It's cool to look at. Yeah.
It's like it's one of the reasons to do a remake is to like do it. This is one of the things that frustrated me, for example, about Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, is I feel like he just kind of pulled so much from the Herzog film, but it doesn't have Klaus Kinski and Isabella Gianni in it. So like, you know,
that's how would you? Yeah, of course.
Bruno Ganz, whatever.
Yep.
But I liked that, and the you know, the green of the armored truck, and then there's that scene where he's walking into his mother's house and she has all these colored glass panels.
Sort of
and
classic
so, like,
70s style. Yeah.
Diegetic like color filter.
I think
all
the color is diegetic. Yeah.
It's diegetic in the world of the film too. But it's, I don't know, I like that. That's cool. And he doesn't really go as far as to say like these people are seeing the world through colored glass or whatever.
No.
It's just sort of, it's just an element of the film. But then he also talks about how he shot it in Austin because he wanted an anonymous place, which Austin in the early 90s, especially in a film that has like a 2-second cameo from Richard Linklater.
I was going to say, Linklater's
like
in the movie as a bouncer.
Weird choice. Like Dallas is right there. You know, you want a place that kind of looks like nowhere.
I mean, he has Linklater in the movie. I think it's almost undeniable that this film is in conversation with Blood Simple because Soderbergh talks about how much he admired that movie. He likes the script. He likes the film itself. Blood Simple is like one of the great, can we do noir in a way that feels genuinely new, but also in the spirit of the original thing? Can we make like new formal choices that kind of feel in the lineage of the weird expressionism of the original stuff? And can we do it in Texas? So, yeah, to say that this is like an anonymous choice or something is interesting. Weird.
It is weird. I'd like to read from Jonathan Rosenbaum.
Of course, please.
Briefly, from his, he wrote a kind of a conversation review of this film, and Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation. Hey, come on. I'm just messing around. I'm just having fun. But this film and Kiss of Death.
Yeah.
The Barbara Schroeder film, which came out the same weekend. And Joe Rowe says, a taste for heartless, sociopathic hoods and sultry femme fatales, a desire to laugh at them and appreciate their outrageousness even as we flinch from them, is certainly part of what links several Hollywood crime thrillers of the 40s, with many of those being made today, including such recent favorites as Pulp Fiction and The Last Seduction. The two most recent examples, Kiss of Death and The Underneath, are remakes of Henry Hathaway's Kiss of Death and Robert Siodmak's CRISS-CROSS. The soundbite version of this is that both are recycled noirs with contemporary settings. But since noir isn't a term American filmmakers or critics or spectators were using in the 40s, and changes meaning today just about every time an academic or a mainstream merchandiser thinks up a new reason for using it, this doesn't take us very far, except perhaps to the point of suggesting that the flexible noir label serves to keep alive a few 40s Hollywood standbys, like misogyny, fatalism, paranoia, hard-boiled sadism, lyrical and romantic masochism, and a comedy of cruelty, as well as certain iconographic lighting and compositional schemes within a stylish and socially acceptable contemporary context. Remove the noir context from The Last Seduction and the movie becomes misogynist, plain and simple. Remove it from Pulp Fiction and the movie becomes barbarically neo-fascist in its worship of the power accorded by guns. Put the noir context back, and the stylish gloss renders the subject matter transcendent, sufficiently removed from reality to seem ironic, comfortably couched between smirking quotation marks. We should have this guy on the show.
Yeah, that'd be great. Nice. Well said.
But, like, it does beg the question then, what exactly is Soderbergh using? That's not really what begging the question is. It does lead me to ask then, raise the question. Barbet the question. What is Soderbergh using noir for? Or is it just that he needed to make a movie and Universal said, we want to make this, and he said, fine, I can find a way to make this interesting for myself?
Yeah. For me, there's a couple. He also compares it to Antonioni. And I think mostly when he says that, he is talking about emotional alienation that makes it difficult to try to reconnect with people, like like Red Desert, sort of like seeking like your capacity to find faith and emotional connection. But I will say the reason that I bring it up is that in noir, I do think there's a formalism that combines, famously like really studio set shot type of like controlled lighting, controlled circumstances that seem removed from reality with you mentioned this like realism, this desire to show the world as it exists, this world, exterior shots without gloss or whatever. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's where I think this film succeeds, again, largely in the first half. I think the second half becomes this storytelling exercise, the hospital scene aside. And I think although that's the half that I think Soderbergh is more proud of because he thinks it resembles his later work. I don't know how much, to me, that's like empty noir. Whereas the first half is focused on this expressive realism that is like heightened by patience with acting, with like looking at these characters with enough time to feel invested in what's happening to them. And to get this sense that, like what you described, the sense that these people live in a world that is unforgiving, that hasn't been kind to them. They convince themselves that it's possible to achieve something else. That is, the like noir standard, whether it's some type of scheme, a robbery, a romance, whatever form it takes. They believe that maybe the world can be like duped. There's a way to find
they can get theirs.
Exactly. And then, of course, ultimately they discover that that's not the case, that often the pursuit of those things is what brings them into contact with the biggest cruelty of all.
Right. Soderbergh talks about The Killing a lot. Kubrick's The Killing is a film.
Love The Killers, the other Siodmak film, and love The Killing, both.
Damn.
Variations of this, like
this guy's hard.
I'm really hard. Yeah, I'm scared to be around. So I don't know. That to me is like the noir stuff. So the first half that is like just looking at these people tricking themselves about a relationship, and maybe it's not a trick. Maybe there is something genuine there, but the ephemerality of it, the fact that it can't last, that's like the bigger truth or something. I don't know. Do you think this is in here?
Yeah, I mean, I have trouble understanding why Rachel wants anything to do with active gambling addiction Peter Gallagher. You don't get any sense of like the redeeming part.
What his charm is? Like, I don't know, man. This is like the question that you can ask anybody in any type of abusive or cyclical relationship.
We don't get the we don't get any inkling of like what was there before he really let himself go or whatever. Like we don't get any sense of what's fallen off. But there is in the novel is very concerned with money and with the desperation of all of these characters, and it's written in 1934, so everyone is
poor,
really having they're feeling economically depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the Siodmak kind of loses that. There's not a ton of people want money because people always want money in a movie or whatever. But I was struck by how much economic desperation came back into this one. I mean, the film opens, there's an early scene where they're all discussing what they would do if they won the lottery.
This is the dinner table. That's what I think thematically is potent for me. This is why Soderbergh talks about it as like empty nonsense, but this discussion of the lottery, of what you would do, of Peter Gallagher kind of like grandstanding, and he says like I don't play this stuff. I wouldn't even consider it. He's kind of lying to himself, right?
I don't know if he's grandstanding because he talks about just he would sit there for 5 minutes and just be rich. And there's part of it that is maybe grandstanding, but then part of it also is like he spent so much of his life. He's trying not to be a gambling addict anymore. He seems to have gotten away from it, and he's also, I think, like he is maybe engaging in what addicts call euphoric recall, where he's sort of just thinking about like the good feeling that he had a couple times when his number came up or whatever.
Paul Schrader, this is like Latour,
John Latour, euphoric recall. Also, when he cast Jacob Elordi. So we're having some euphoric recall.
Yes, you're right.
Stupid show.
Yeah.
But I think so. You have that, and then you have obviously the dramatic ups and downs of the gambling addiction, and there's discussion. I love when people talk about specific amounts of money, like human amounts of money, not
Me
like
too.
what the haul from the robbery is. Obviously, we went on Junk Filter to talk about Den of Thieves. We love an armored heist.
You bet. Of course, I did so much research about, first of all, how shockingly easy it is to get an armored car job, because apparently it's like so undesirable. The pay is terrible, and it's a job that is filled with
danger.
Like danger from the inside. It's filled with like freak cowboys who, like, despite the companies basically begging you to not protect the money, like, please let them take the money. The interviews I read were people just saying like everybody who gets these jobs wants to shoot somebody.
Yep. But so that, he talks about how he got a great deal on the TV and the giant satellite dish. He got it for $7. And she goes, $700? That's not bad. And he goes, $1,000. And
this is like life ruining decision making for them.
She's like trying to get a job as a she wants to be an actress, and she tries out to read the lottery numbers.
And he sort of mocks her for like debasing her acting career considering this job.
But then she talks about how, speaking of the price of eggs, she talks about how like they have to eat all these eggs that she hard boiled to practice.
This is good stuff to me. This is good.
Hard boiled.
Yeah, this is the world. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I think, it's kind of there's an element of corny neatness to the reveal of the Joe Don Baker is behind all of it. But I do think that there's, what's frustrating to the character in the book is that he is so poor and literally sitting on 46,000 potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it does kind of tie it all together that no matter if you try to play by the rules or try to break the rules, all the flow of capital, the flow of money is being controlled by the same high up people. The guy who owns the company is also
the one
guy
organizing the robberies. Yeah.
And it is frustrating that like the armored car guy is like a type of cop whose job is to like stand by and sort of assist in the transport of
the like centralization
of money. Yeah. And like money has been extracted from the people who've gone to Jack in the Box and paid more money than it cost to put together this bad food and underpay the people who put it together. And so they paid a little bit more than that. And now all that money needs to be taken somewhere else. And so you're helping in the you're helping in the extraction of money from people who don't have enough of it and taking it back to the people who have too much already.
I mean, this is why using the lottery as a fixation point, and we know very little about his mom in the film, except that she seems to have been struggling financially.
Right.
Peter Gallagher gets in trouble with his brother, and I think a much better scene for that actor, to his credit, where he confronts Peter Gallagher about not supporting their mom.
He also looks at his penis. He looks at Gallagher's Peter.
Those weird scenes with the brother, I think, work well.
Yeah, that's good.
Because he is a guy who's inscrutable a little
You
bit.
wear jeans with no underwear? Crazy move.
Only coming out of like a lake or something where your boxers get, you know what I mean?
You hitting on me?
I'm not wearing the jeans in the lake. No, yeah. So I was gonna say, this like speaks to the power of good writing to me. I have read compelling discussions of why the lottery is like the worst example of capitalistic deceit. It's like tricking people into believing. I mean, there is a scarcity of resources does exist, but it's tricking people into believing that like a very few will ever achieve this, and that we should be like scrabbling with each other, and that like the only people who deserve to have a good life should be those lucky few, and we can't change the system. We have to accept this inequality. I've also read really compelling stuff about how the lottery represents this revelation of the cruelty of capitalism. So in some ways we should admire it for its like transparency, because it's addressing the fact that this is a totally random system that rewards people, and that it sort of like forces us to recognize the contradictions and to see that maybe we should be fighting for a different system. And also it shows the tragedy of people preferring to accept the possibility of wealth, preferring this fantasy. And I'm sympathetic, you know, that it may seem, you know, there's the condescension of like, don't you understand that it's 1 in 14 million chances or something? But don't you understand that for most people, that may be more likely than them getting rich through traditional business ownership or something?
Well, and it also, like, you can only get rich. You literally can only get so much more money than the other people who buy into the lottery because they individually bought in and lost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. So like, you know, I don't know. I get both sides. It is extremely nasty, and also maybe it's sympathetic and particularly demonstrative. So I think that stuff's cool. But I again, to me, the failures of the second half of the film are that
I wish you would both win the lottery from that book.
The Shirley
Where
Jackson
you die.
fantasy. Yeah.
Like Tron.
Did Tron get stoned to death? I don't remember.
Like Tron is dead.
I mean, some of the freaking stuff that goes on in that movie, somebody must have been stoned to death thinking of it.
Probably written by J.R.R. Tolkien.
The MCP, the Master Chiba Puffer.
Mr. Chronic
Puffer. My sister used to chronically use a puffer.
Yeah, she had asthma.
I thought she had asthma.
Yeah.
Turned out it was something else. Somebody should make a weed inhaler, like as a bit. I walked past a smoke shop the other day that had at least 4 Baby Yoda shaped smoking devices. First of all, he's a child.
Yeah, he's also like, anime style. He's like a 60-year-old man.
Yeah, it's fine.
So it's actually fine.
It's fine to be erotically entangled with him.
Yep.
But somebody should make it should look like a little asthma inhaler, but it has some
There's
THC
just no way
mist.
this doesn't exist. It must exist.
Listeners, if you're familiar with this device that we just imagined, podcastingforme@gmail.com.
All right, so we talked about some of the like stuff that defines this as a production benchmark in his career.
Yes.
He's doing some different stuff. He's doing some stuff he's going to start to stick with. What's the deal?
He's doing some well, he talks about specifically as this film indicating to him a lot of the ways he never wants to work again, which that is helpful as a sort of negative benchmark. But he begins what will become, it's not that he only makes heist films, but he certainly loves a heist film. He makes a series of very successful ones, and then he makes Logan Lucky, which makes reference to the other ones. Call it Ocean 711.
Good.
And that's another film that literally like interrupts the. I guess that's what a heist always does, but it interrupts the flow of capital. So there's that.
He's got an editor.
There's the kind of
for the first
clockwork
time. Yeah.
plotting. He's got an editor, Stan Salfus.
Yep.
We haven't mentioned yet that he in the intervening time between King of the Hill and this, he directs an episode of Fallen Angels, which is a Showtime Network film noir version of Tales from the Crypt. It's an anthology series with big name actors and directors.
Produced by Pollock.
Sidney Pollock, yep.
And also specifically, I think it resembles Tales of the Crypt in that it hinges, at least I've only seen Soderbergh's episode, but it hinges on a spooky twist at the end that will upset you.
Spooky twist, and they're half an hour. So his episode of the first season, he does 2 episodes. The one from the second season comes out after this, which is why it's okay that not everyone's watched it. The first one, it's called The Quiet Room. It stars Joe Mantegna and Bonnie Bedelia and Vanessa Shaw from Eyes Wide Shut, which also has Sidney Pollock in it. That's interesting to think about for 2 seconds.
It's got all the stuff that he says he doesn't like. It's got fedoras, it's got smoke, it's got
dramatic sources of light. It's shot by
boiled
Emmanuel
eggs.
Lubezki.
A lot of egg stuff in these movies.
It does have eggs in it, but did you see that Chivo shot it?
No.
Emmanuel Lubezki was the DP on that.
Whoa.
Isn't that weird?
I did not see that.
It doesn't look like much.
It looks bad. Part of it is that I watched it. You found it a higher res version of this, but I watched it on very clear VHS transfer. But the reason it looks bad is I think it's got some cool. It's not so totally surprising to me because it's got some cool like hard shadows on the faces and stuff. But
right,
I said to you, the backgrounds look like TGIF block stuff to me. They I don't know if that's a budgetary, if it's like camera restrictions for lighting. It has to be so. You can
make out the 2 guys, and then there's something that kind of looks like a girl and what kind of looks like a pizza place in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look great, and it's really short, and
impossible to develop. Yeah.
It's just like, oh, that's the end of it.
Peter Gallagher's in the film, Peter Gallagher plays short television film.
Yeah, he's doing kind of a arch dentist accent.
Yeah, he does have a dentist accent. He shakes right, man.
I don't know, the Bonnie Bedelia's hair sure working for her in that. I don't know. And it's weird because I don't really understand, because it's Showtime, obviously. So it's like I think early premium cable like that often wants to show off that it can.
It's pushing boundaries. Yeah. There's a lot of undressing and talking about, the story hinges on like trapping John's
underage sex workers. Yeah. They're trapping John's.
It's like bribery. Yeah. Hey,
to shake them down. Yeah. Like, hey, the girl that you hired last night was 15. Give us money, or else we.
Yeah, Monte's like corrupt cop. Yeah, they're both corrupt cops.
But I don't know. It's bad. I guess he gets his genre exercise out.
The acting is not good to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but. Speaking of Paul Schrader, this was the
Witch Hunt.
Witch Hunt's comparisons were unavoidable to me. Obviously, it's the timing, it's the television, it's the
daytime, the early 90s daytime.
Yeah. I don't
know, man. The sun just looked different back then. Do you know about this?
Yes.
Do you know about the conspiracy?
Yeah, it's called the sun, Growing Up. Yeah, this is absolute nonsense to me.
You think the sun used to be yellow and now it's white, and they also don't know that like camera technology has changed.
All of this Mandela effect stuff, 99% of it is attributable to the frailty of memory, which we've talked about many times. Right. First of all, go look up how extremely like impressionable your memory is, and the fact that if somebody else tells you, "Hey, do you remember the Raisin Bran son having sunglasses?" Your brain is good, and you can picture the Raisin Bran son having sunglasses, and you probably haven't seen it that recently. So
I was the Honey Nut Cheerios son.
Oh, that's really great.
Primarily.
And I can picture you with sunglasses.
I would love for you to do that. Another part of the Mandela effect is the way he courted international finance once he became president.
That's right. Yeah, sort of turned his back on his more radical wife. Yeah.
Check out our episode on Invictus. Anyway, it's I don't know. Oh, one other thing about this, about Soderbergh establishing trends. He gets in a fight with the WGA on this.
Yes, we have to talk about this. Yeah.
Because he writes the script. The script is obviously adapted from
the novel and
the
from
novel
the Daniel
and the
Fuchs
film.
script.
And he wanted a credit that was something like suggested by a story by Daniel Fuchs or based on adapted from the screenplay by Daniel Fuchs.
Mm-hmm. Which I will say, just a reasonable request. I understand why that would make sense. He's saying that the writer of CRISS-CROSS, the film, has been dead for 35 years. Why would I share a credit just because the WGA prefers, particularly when the director is trying to get a writing credit, that they prefer like shared credits. They're trying to protect those. Yeah.
And he did write the script, or initially not planning to direct it himself, and then later decided he wanted to direct it himself. So like, I see where he's coming from, but he gets in a fight with them. They want it to say like screenplay by Steven Soderbergh and Daniel Fuchs, and he thinks that's silly. And so he elects to credit himself credit the screenplay to a pseudonym.
I'm doing a big eye roll. That's why Jake's laughing.
Yeah. Ian's rolling his whole head.
Yeah.
Sam Lowry, who's a character from Brazil, because this whole thing is so freaking crazy and absurd.
He
Steven
said
Soderbergh
that in an interview. He said, like, it was just fitting because this is
and
the
I'm
type
the guy
of
who directed
bureaucracy.
Kafka.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to pull his pants down in 1995. Look, I'm not saying I have been involved in unions before. They are long-standing institutions, sometimes with bylaws that don't keep up with either individual circumstances or changing circumstances. It could be frustrating to feel like you have no say as an individual about the direction of this like big organization that you're a part of. I'm not denying that at all. All of that is genuinely frustrating. But guess what? If you want to change things in an organization that is at least trying to defend your rights as a worker, your best option is to get involved more, to do things, because the alternative is...
Not to say this is freaking Brazil to me.
Yeah, it's truly the like 15-year-old, I don't like the way this family functions, so I'm going to check out or like kick over the freaking Christmas turkey or something to say like, because you guys are a bunch of turkeys also. So
yeah, exactly. And you're acting like Mr. Bean with his head stuck in one.
Exactly. So this was so embarrassing to me to read. And I love Soderbergh, love a lot of the rest of that interview where he is providing insight into his process. But
yeah, I mean, he also, you and I talked about in the interview from the time with Positive, he says like, he says basically it's like the audience's fault if they don't get this. And then the Blu-ray retrospective, he says like, I don't blame audiences if they didn't get this, like if they didn't turn out to this.
Yeah, he says later I will start to blame audiences. I don't blame audiences for this. This is a terrible film. He also tells a funny story where Gilles Jacob called him from Cannes to say like, hey, I heard you had a new movie coming out, like a noir adaptation. Do you want to bring it to Cannes? And he says, this is the worst movie I've ever made. I refuse to even screen it for you.
That's really funny. I mean, I don't know. At one point, Michael is reading a book called Self-Esteem, A User's Guide, that is written by Dr. Anton Kataj, which is Lem Dobbs' real name, Anton Lemuel Kataj. I don't know. Is that anything?
So you were saying that he like flip-flopped on this, but I think that's called growing up. That's learning. I think that just speaks to the fact that probably when he gave the original interview, he was like 30, and now I think when he did the other interview, he was in his 50s, and he has more perspective, and so it's okay. I'm making fun of him, but it's okay to be dumb when you're younger.
Yeah, he's younger than we are now, and that suck.
Yeah, it
that
does
suck to think about.
Yeah.
We watched Pandora and the Flying Dutchman last night. Speaking of The Killers, that's another film with Ava Gardner, and we were both bracing ourselves. We basically just like whipping ourselves up, getting upset, thinking about how she's probably fucking 22 in this. And we looked it up, and she was like 29. And we're like, that's all right. Fine. Yeah. That's fine. Because she's playing like a, adult woman or whatever.
Yeah. Man, she's so good. I've watched The Killers like every couple of years. It's great.
I will.
And also Burt Lancaster's so good.
I watch The Exits in every room that I go into, imagining that killers are in my midst.
You're like the Swede. It's a guy from The Killers. Killers written by Ernest Hemingway.
Right. Friend
beloved.
of.
Yeah, Hotchner.
Mr. Hotch. I call him the rutabaga.
That's cool.
Made that joke before on the show. Isn't it? It's just bizarre that in England they call rutabaga Swede.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, first of all, to give up the chance to say rutabaga,
I
one
know.
of the most Bugs Bunny words there is.
And they
real
usually
life.
like to do this, that sort of aubergine capsicum type elaborate nonsense.
They're all so freaking crazy over there.
Yeah.
Do we have any final thoughts on the film? It sets him up to become Steven Soderbergh, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's right in that regard that it's probably the biggest interest for this is just watching it and seeing what emerges. I do think that the first half of the film is like interesting enough to merit watching. And we didn't talk about the Cliff Martinez score, which he highlights as being like Bernard Herrmann specifically. And I think the score is good. I like that part. I don't know how you felt about it.
The score is quite good. I think the score is like so good that I thought, have I heard this somewhere else? Did they play this? They used to play this at the ArcLight in the bathroom before the movies or something.
Yeah.
I like old Cliff, Mr. Cliff.
Yeah, actors turning out. This is maybe one of the last instances of some of that like early Soderbergh patience that I actually do enjoy. But otherwise, yeah, I think this is fine. I think Soderbergh's too harsh on it. He says that, he would cut it all down. He would shoot everything differently. And he even makes fun of himself because he talks about little Don Siegel, Clint Eastwood connection. He talks about how they shot 62,000 feet of film for this movie, which is like nothing, like a 6-to-1 ratio.
Right. Yeah.
And he says, on the one hand, I'm sort of like famous for being economical and wanting to prioritize efficiency, and I'm proud of like some of the choices we made, but also he says that level of that extreme of efficiency just indicates like how uninterested he was in this film. I think he describes it as kind of shady. He says a suspicious number of film that he
That's very
shot.
funny. His like making the movie on the bus on the way to school.
That's exactly right. I think. Yeah.
So
What about you? Any other final thoughts here?
is it then, should we make the episode even longer? Is that what he's saying to us?
I think that might be what he's saying. Yeah.
No, I don't have a lot to say. The film is like daring you to attend to it, I think. It's kind of cool to see a guy. I mean, if this is what disinterested Soderbergh turns out.
Oh, yeah.
The guy's just, eating everybody's lunch.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking me to pick between this and, which nobody is, but like Blood Simple, also formal, also bringing noir concerns into the late 80s, early 90s, that's an unfair fight for sure.
Or Pulp Fiction, or One False Move, or any of these films. Yeah. I mean, there's something interesting to the fact that it's sort of a similarly, was there an economic boom quickly after the war? I mean, you think of the 50s as being a high,
absolutely. I mean, this is when
high on the hog.
This is when we're getting all our loan repayment and manufacturing boom and stuff.
Right. There's a brief recession in the early 90s, like 90 to 91. But I think at this point, people are, I don't know, everybody's working for Sun Microsystems and buying a second house or whatever.
I do think that that's a part. I mean, not to say that there's like no individual versions of noir that like are more focused on just like people figuring themselves out. But I do think that is maybe what sabotages some of the movie, is that you don't get the sense of like the world being the problem so much as this is just like interpersonal issues between people.
Yeah. I do find it interesting that Soderbergh talks about like his two favorite noir films, he says, are The Killers and Chinatown. And The Killers is at the tail end of the noir, the period that these films are coming out in. And then Chinatown is from an entirely different like economic history milieu. And it seems like maybe that's not of any interest to him. Like he thinks of it exclusively as a series of aesthetic choices.
I think so too. And I think you're right that may be part of what's missing compared to those two films or those two eras of film.
And what I like most about Soderbergh, I think, generally are the contemporaneousness,
we talked about a little
presence.
bit for King of the Hill.
The presence of his filmmaking. Not that, I love Behind the Candelabra, and like Contagion is not exactly like a contemporary film. It's
Che.
But Che I have not seen yet, so I don't know if I like it or not. So please back off.
I will.
But Solaris, that's the future.
Yeah, that's a type of period.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think generally being able to comment on the world that his characters inhabits, like semi-indirectly, is
cool.
some of his best stuff.
That's about going to do it for us on the underneath here.
Yes.
Do we even care to do? Let's do it.
Let's do
Now
it.
it's time for Going Haywire, the part of the show where we pick which character from the film we'd most like to see overdubbed by actress Laura San Giacomo.
William Fichtner. Done.
Okay, that was fast. That would be really good. Oh, we didn't even really talk about Fichtner. Sometimes he goes a little big, but I think he actually has
I like
some
him
nice. He has some nice scenes in here.
Was reminding me of him in he's good at smarmy in Heat in Go.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. He's the kind of guy whose face seems at once like it has never existed, but also it doesn't seem like a noir face, and then it does at the same time. He's got a weird like. I mean, he's an interesting guy to look at. I like him.
Yeah, like an Elisha Cook or something where you think, does anybody ever look like this? Like, could you just find this in the street?
Yeah, exactly. Where did this man come about? Like, is he sick?
Is this condition related? Yeah.
I do really like that shot of where he's like necking Rachel
it's like a weird 3-shot, like very tight 3-shot. Yeah. Where Peter Gallagher is like 6 inches away from two people kissing, at him, basically.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. I'm going to say probably put it on, what's the name of the bands? Cowboy Mayhem? What is it? Cowboy something?
Cowboy...
Baby?
Cowboy Mouth.
Cowboy Mouth. I don't know if it's that band. There's a band where the drummer is the lead singer and he sings a cool song. I think that would be nice if that was Laura San Giacomo.
Oh, that's good.
Doing that.
I like that. Yeah, that's Cowboy Mouth. Fred LeBlanc, Matt's brother. Not true, probably. Well, wait. Nope, it's not true.
Okay.
He went to Jesuit high school. They didn't even bother naming it. Yeah. Oh, and he produced material for one of the guys from Hootie and the Blowfish. So I was right.
You're right to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. As for us, remember to subscribe, rate us, write a review. Helps us on the algorithm. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Pod Casty For Me. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or you're interested in co-hosting a 2-person Steven Soderbergh podcast, you can email us at podcastingforme@gmail.com. All of that is at podcastingforme.com and shootingyourselfinthehead.com. Thank you to Jeremy Allison for our artwork. We will be back with you next week with a Patreon episode, and the week following with perhaps Schizopolis.
I sure hope so.
Unless something else happens. I don't know. What if there's like a secret? What if Clint drops a movie like the what was it? The Cloverfield Paradox?
Yes.
What if Clint's been secretly
that does
working
seem
on
like
Cloverfield?
Classic Clint stuff. Yeah, like direct to streaming style.
Yeah. Announced via Big Game commercial. Can't say it. Not allowed. Don't think it. Don't say it. It's like the Bye Bye Man. And speaking of which,
Bye Bye Man.